That's the Bee Gees. How Deep Is Your Love here on KKOJ Radio. We have overcast skies, a current temperature of 51 degrees. It is 10:09, and we have a guest in our studios this morning. We're being joined by Republican candidate for Minnesota House District 1, Jim Hagedorn. And Jim, thank you very much for taking the time to stop down here.
Well, it's a pleasure to be here, Dave. Thank you for the opportunity.
And you've been a busy guy here the last several months.
Well, we've been out campaigning, crisscrossing across this big district. It's 21 counties all the way from South Dakota to Wisconsin, and then Iowa up about 75 or 80 miles. And recently, just this past weekend, we received the endorsement of the 1st District Republican Party. We left our Mankato convention energized and unified in our race against Liberal Congressman Tim Walz, and we're just excited to get out and meet the folks, especially here in Jackson County, where we were on the ballot last time and we won Jackson County. So,
well, we talked a little bit about it before, and it's a completely different landscape and game from 2 years ago. As 2 years ago, you actually went to the primary, was able to, you didn't get the endorsement from the party, but it was able to win the primary election in August and actually put up a really close election in November.
Well, yeah, we did surprise some people, and our 54-46 result against the incumbent was, I think, pretty good, especially since we were outspent 6-1, and but we did the retail campaigning. We were out there meeting the folks. We're doing much of that this time. We've started earlier. We're organizing better. We're going to raise some more money, and I think we're going to finish the job here because, like you said, things are different. 2 years ago in that election, some of the issues just weren't quite resonating the way they are today. We're seeing Obamacare and the way it's costing people some $25,000 a year. It's not affordable, and the congressman's vote on that was very hurtful to the people he represents. Radical Islam is something now. ISIS wasn't really even in the news in that last election, just barely. Now we see that it's expanding. The Middle East is in trouble. Minnesota has a terrorist recruiting problem. We just saw that recently with the trial of the Somali men who were refugees and ISIS people. So the issues are resonating. I think, unfortunately, the economy is on people's minds because it's tightening, and so we're taking our reforms and our vision straight to the people.
Well, and that's something too. We talked about the last election cycle. Is you are probably the most on the street candidate I think I have ever seen. I don't think there was a town parade or a town festival or a fair that went on in your district that you were not at.
Well, unfortunately, they don't allow cloning here, so we otherwise we try to be at all of them. But and we're going to do the same thing this time around. We're going to hit every parade and all the county fairs, and we'll be at every possible event, and then we'll get into the coffee shops. And on top of that, though, we do go squarely at the congressman on the issues and talk about his record and talk about my vision. And that's something he doesn't do. Wherever he goes, he talks about process and he talks about generalities. He doesn't talk about his voting record. So I'm always happy to get into that.
So as you're out on the street talking to people in the district, what are the big issues that you hear? What are people concerned about in District 1?
Well, this is an agricultural-based district, so people are concerned about the ag economy. They feel that things are tightening. We have low commodity prices. We have still high input costs, a glut of product. Median farm income is at a 20-year low, unfortunately. And what farmers, they understand the ups and downs of farming. I myself, I grew up on a grain and livestock farm over by Truman. My father, Tom Hagedorn, and grandfather, great-grandfather, all farmers. So we get it. Farming's up, farming's down. But what we don't get is when our congressman goes out there to Washington and represents a rural district and votes for all these EPA regulations, all this extreme liberalism when it comes to global warming and energy policies, these things that are driving up farmers' costs, their production costs. So putting the squeeze on farmers. We need a congressman that's going to go out there and do just the opposite. For instance, on the regulations, I support a thing called the REINS Act, which would require the Congress to vote and approve every major rule. We need to neuter the EPA, not let them come down and abuse our farmers.
We're visiting with Republican candidate for Minnesota House District 1, Jim Hagedorn, here on a KKOJ. And shifting gears a little bit, nationwide, looking at the Republican Party, very hotly contested presidential race. And at least for now, it appears that the dust is settling and we're moving forward with what a lot of people consider a little more unconventional candidate in Donald Trump being the leader. And how do you feel working with somebody like that?
Well, the race sets up very for a big contrast between the two parties. And I said all along, whoever wins the Republican nomination comes out of the Cleveland Convention as our candidate, I will support that person. It looks like it's going to be Donald Trump. So I am happy to run this election with him, and we will offer a big contrast. Look, Hillary Clinton and Tim Walz and the Democrats, they offer the voters Obama's third term. Nobody wants that. They also offer a Supreme Court that is going to be stacked with justices, especially one to replace Justice Scalia, that's going to take away the individual right to keep and bear arms. It's going to take away our religious freedoms and probably a lot of our other liberties. So, we on the Republican side will run on big, bold solutions to take the power from the Washington politicians, bureaucrats, interest groups, give it back to the states and the people. We need to make big, fundamental, substantial change in Washington, or we're going to lose our country the way the forefathers put it together. And so we need to defend our country, secure our borders, protect our people from radical Islam, get the economy going, weed out excessive government, and then protect our God-given rights. So I think this election sets up very nicely for the Republicans, and I'm excited about it.
Just, you mentioned a little bit on there, and what do you see are the key differences between you and Representative Walz in District 1?
Tim Walz has been in Washington for 10 years, and frankly, it hasn't been a good 10 years for the country. He went out there, his premier issue was going to be he was going to help the veterans, for instance. And I'd say, unfortunately, the veterans are worse off today than when he went to Washington. They're dying at the hands of the U.S. government. The VA is a bloated mess. I've offered several solutions in the areas of veterans care to help them. First and foremost, we should hold the VA accountable. When the bureaucrats hurt a veteran, that bureaucrat should be fired or demoted expeditiously. The Republicans had a bill on that last year. Walz voted no. So there's a big difference right there. He supports the bureaucrats. I support the veteran. Then when it comes to their medical care, I think every veteran should be allowed to go out and choose the doctor that they want and go get medical care whenever and wherever they need it, whether that's from the VA or the private sector. Walz opposes that. He says that will somehow undermine the VA and it will hurt veterans. I think that's ridiculous. I mean, here's a guy in Tim Walz who supports choice, abortion on demand choice, to basically murder babies in the 7th, 8th, and 9th month of pregnancy. But when it comes to choice for veterans to go out and choose their own doctor, he's against it. He's got it just opposite. The people of southern Minnesota are traditional people. Their beliefs and values, I would represent them more in the Congress than with the congressman.
So we're going to end here with a little bit of a curveball. People who follow politics, follow government, there's 435 members in the U.S. House of Representatives. How can one person, what can you do to help change that and get things done?
The House of Representatives is an institution the forefathers put together to be a powerful institution to promote our laws. It's run by the majority. One vote more than half gets you the majority. You control the committees, you control the agenda, and that type of thing. I would be in the majority as a Republican, and the way I could influence as one person is be part of a body that is going to influence fundamental change for our country. We need to have laws and ideas and so forth coming out of Washington that are going to make that place less powerful. And frankly, I think I have better solutions than the incumbent. And he's going to vote, for instance, for things like Obamacare. He's going to vote for cap and trade energy. He's going to vote for weakness against Islamic terrorism. He's going to have open borders and amnesty. That's where he is. I'm on the other side, and I'm going to promote that agenda. And as part of that body, I would make a difference.
We've been visiting with Republican House candidate for District 1 in Minnesota, Jim Hagedorn. Would just like to state that if any opposing candidate would like to have their views heard here on KKOJ, they're more than welcome to do that. Just give us a call at 507-847-5400. You can email us at info@kkoj.com. Again, visiting with a Republican candidate for Minnesota House District 1, Jim Hagedorn. And Jim, really appreciate you taking the time to come down and talk to us.
Oh, it's always fun, and I appreciate the opportunity.